Ruvo lived alone at the edge of the small human settlement on the frozen moon called Olener. He was a builder and repairman. He fixed houses and machines. His work was simple, but he was good at it. People trusted him because he cared about his work and the people around him. One night, the cold wind blew hard. Snow covered the ground like a soft white blanket. Ruvo was walking home after finishing repairs on a broken generator near the village. The rain had started, and the icy drops felt sharp against his skin. The sky was dark, and the only light came from the lamps on the houses. Ruvo's boots made soft sounds on the wet snow. Suddenly, he saw something on the side of the road. At first, he thought it was just a piece of cloth caught in the wind, but as he got closer, he saw a small figure lying still on the ground. Ruvo stopped. His heart beat faster. He moved carefully toward the figure. It was a young woman, but she was very thin and weak. Her clothes were torn and wet. Ruvo gently shook her shoulder. "Are you okay?" he asked in a soft voice. She did not answer. Her eyes were closed. He looked around to see if anyone else was nearby, but the road was empty and silent. No one was coming. Ruvo lifted her carefully into his arms. She was light, almost like a child. He carried her to the small house. Inside, he wrapped her in a warm blanket. He made a hot drink to help her warm up. Slowly, her eyes opened. They were large and bright, but filled with fear. She looked at Ruvo, but did not speak. Ruvo smiled gently and said, "My name is Ruvo. You are safe here." She only blinked. Ruvo wanted to help her, but he did not know where she came from. Her skin was a little different, and her hair was silver with a soft glow. He had never seen anyone like her before. She seemed tired and scared. Days passed. The girl did not speak. She only watched Ruvo as he worked in his small workshop. Sometimes, she tried to imitate the movements he made with his tools. Ruvo began to call her Liri, a simple name that felt right. Ruvo made a small bed for Liri in a corner of his house. But he knew it was not enough. She needed more than a bed. She needed a place to feel safe and free. Ruvo decided to build her a shelter behind his home. It would be a small wooden house, made with care and strong enough to protect her from the cold winds. Every day, Ruvo collected wood, metal, and tools. He worked hard, shaping each piece with skill. Liri watched, sometimes helping by handing him nails or pieces of wood. Although she could not speak much, her eyes showed gratitude. One afternoon, while Ruvo hammered a plank, Liri pointed to the sky and made a soft sound. Ruvo looked up. The stars were bright and clear. He smiled and said, "You like the stars?" Liri nodded slowly. Ruvo thought about the stars. They were far away, cold and distant, but they held stories and secrets. Maybe Liri's home was among those stars. One evening, a stranger came to the village. He was a traveler with a scarred face and rough clothes. He asked about Liri quietly. Ruvo did not want to lie, but he also wanted to protect her. The traveler warned Ruvo that the girl was important. She was being hunted by a dangerous group called the Thorn Patrol. They wanted to capture her. Ruvo looked at Liri. She was silent, but her hands trembled. She had hidden her true story for days, but now Ruvo saw the truth. Liri was not just a lost traveler. She was a princess from another world, running from enemies. Ruvo did not feel afraid. He felt determined. He told Liri that she was safe with him. The shelter would be her home, no matter what. As the shelter grew, so did their trust. Liri began to smile more often. She learned to speak a few words in Ruvo's language. She told him about her people, the Varnari. They were peaceful, but their enemies wanted to destroy them. Liri had escaped during a mission for peace, but she was alone and scared. Ruvo listened carefully. He knew he could not change the whole universe, but he could protect one life, and he would. The shelter was finished. It was small but strong. The roof was thick to keep out snow. The walls were warm and safe. Ruvo placed a small table and chair. Inside, in a soft bed for Liri, he hung a lantern to light the room at night. Liri entered the shelter for the first time. She looked around with wide eyes. For the first time in many days, She felt a little hope. Ruvo stood outside, watching. The sky. The stars were bright and silent. He whispered to himself, "You will be safe here, Leary." The night was quiet, but Ruvo knew danger could come at any time. Still, he was ready to stand between her and the darkness. The shelter was more than wood and nails. It was a promise. The small shelter behind Ruvo's house stood strong against the cold wind. It was not big or fancy, but it was built with care. Inside, the walls were smooth and warm. The floor was clean and dry. A small window looked out to the stars. Liri. Like her new home, she spent most of her time inside, resting and learning. Ruvo gave her simple tools and books to read. She was curious about the world of humans. Sometimes, she looked at the stars and whispered words in her own language. Ruvo did not understand, but he smiled. The stars were important to her each day. Ruvo worked on the shelter. He fixed the roof and made a small garden nearby where Leary could grow plants. She helped by watering the seeds. The plants grew slowly, but they gave color to the cold land. Leary began to speak more. She learned simple words and used them to talk with Ruvo. "Home," she said one day, pointing to the shelter. "Safe?" Ruvo nodded. He was glad she felt safe. One morning, Ruvo saw a stranger walking toward the village. The man was tall and had a scar across his cheek. He looked tired but strong. He wore a long coat and carried a bag. Ruvo watched him carefully. The stranger walked to the center of the village and spoke quietly with some people. Later, the stranger came to Ruvo's door. Ruvo opened it slowly. The man looked at Leary and then at Ruvo. "She is special," the stranger said. "The Thorn Patrol is looking for her. They want to take her back." Ruvo felt a chill. "Why?" he asked. "Because she is a princess," the stranger said. "The Varnari want her to return, but the Thorn want to control her. They will stop at nothing." Leary listened quietly. Her eyes filled with sadness. She looked at Ruvo. She wanted to speak, but the words were hard to find. Ruvo placed a hand on her shoulder. "You are safe here," he said. "I will protect you." The stranger nodded. "Be careful," he warned. Then he left, disappearing into the cold night. After he left, Ruvo and Leary sat by the fire. She told him about her home, the Varnari realm. It was a beautiful place among the stars, with tall trees and clear rivers. Her people were peaceful and loved learning, but enemies attacked them. The Thorn wanted power and control. Leary's family was in danger. She had escaped alone to find safety. Ruvo listened with a heavy heart. He wished he could do more, but he was just one man on a small moon. Still, Ruvo did not give up. He decided to make the shelter stronger. He built a small wall around it, using stones and wood. He made traps and alarms to warn them if someone came close. Leary helped as best she could. She learned how to use simple tools and how to move quietly in the woods. She practiced hiding and running. Days passed, and the village began to accept Leary. People saw that she was kind and gentle. She helped with small chores and shared stories about the stars. Some children played near the shelter, curious about the strange girl. One evening, Ruvo and Leary sat outside watching the sky. The stars twinkled like tiny fires. Leary pointed to one bright star and said, "That is my home." Ruvo smiled. "One day, maybe you will return," he said softly. Liri nodded, but her eyes were sad. "Not yet," she said. "Here's my home now." Ruvo took her hand gently. "And you will never be alone." But danger was near. One night, Ruvo heard strange sounds outside. He looked out and saw shadows moving through the trees. The Thorn Patrol had found them. Ruvo quickly woke Leary. "We must hide," he said. They slipped into the woods, moving silently. Ruvo led her to a secret cave he had found months before. It was small but safe. They waited in silence, listening as the patrol passed by. The next morning, the village was quiet. No one spoke of the Thorn. Ruvo and Leary returned to the shelter. They knew the danger was not over, but they were ready. Ruvo looked at Leary and said, "We are stronger together. Leary smiled for the first time in days. Thank you, Ruvo. Ruvo shook his head. No, thank you for trusting me. The stars shone above, silent and bright. A small house of wood and stars stood firm in the cold night. It was more than a shelter. It was a promise of hope. The cold morning air was sharp and clear. Ruvo woke early, as usual. He stepped outside his small home and looked at the shelter he had built for Leary. The wooden walls stood strong against the icy wind. Leary was still asleep inside. Ruvo felt a quiet peace for a moment, but that peace did not last long. Something was wrong. From the edge of the forest, Ruvo saw a movement. Shadows moved between the trees. His heart beat faster. He knew the Thorn Patrol had found them again. Ruvo quickly went inside and gently woke Leary. We must prepare, he said softly. Leary's eyes opened wide. She stood and nodded without a word. They had practiced for this moment many times. Ruvo grabbed a small bag. Inside were a few simple weapons. He had made tools more than weapons, like a slingshot and some sharp stones. He handed them to Leary. You can protect yourself with this, he said. I will protect you with the rest. Together, they moved quietly through the trees. Away from the shelter, Ruvo had prepared a plan. He had set traps and alarms around the area, but they needed to be ready. The patrol came slowly, careful and silent. Ruvo could hear their voices, low and angry. The Thorn were looking for Leary, the princess they wanted to capture. Ruvo and Leary hid behind a large rock. The slingshot was ready in Leary's hands. Ruvo held a small device that sent out soft signals to confuse the patrol's scanners. The first Thorn soldier stepped forward. He looked around carefully. Suddenly, a trap triggered. A loud noise startled the patrol. Ruvo smiled. The trap had worked. The patrol moved deeper into the woods. Ruvo and Leary stayed hidden. Leary's hands were steady as she watched the soldiers pass. She did not want to fight, but she was ready. Ruvo whispered, Stay calm. We only want to stay safe. Suddenly, one soldier looked directly at their hiding place. Ruvo held his breath. The soldier moved closer. Leary aimed her slingshot and shot a small stone near the soldier's feet. The soldier jumped back, startled. The patrol sounded an alarm. More soldiers came running. Ruvo grabbed Leary's hand. Run, he said. They ran fast through the forest. Ruvo knew the woods well. He led Leary to a secret path that went to an old cave. The cave was hidden by thick bushes and rocks. Inside the cave, they caught their breath. Leary's heart beat fast. They will not stop, she said quietly. Ruvo nodded. No, but we will be ready. For days, they stayed in the cave. Ruvo found food and water nearby. Leary rested and learned to be quiet like the forest animals. Back in the village, people noticed the patrol's presence. They were afraid, but did not speak openly. Ruvo knew that if the patrol found Leary, the village would be in danger. One evening, Ruvo spoke to the village leaders. We must protect Leary, he said. She means no harm. She is a friend. Some leaders agreed. Others were unsure. The village was small, and they did not want trouble. But Ruvo's words touched their hearts. They remembered how Leary had helped with chores and shared stories. She was kind. Slowly, the village began to stand with Ruvo. They set watch posts and warned each other of danger. They prepared to help if needed. Leary felt hope. For the first time, she did not feel alone. One night, the Thorn Patrol returned. This time, they came with more soldiers and machines. They moved through the village quietly, searching for the Princess Ruvo, and the villagers hid Leary in a safe place. She waited silently, her heart pounding. The patrol reached the shelter. They searched carefully. Ruvo watched from the shadows. He had planned for this moment, using signals and traps. Ruvo led the patrol away from the shelter. The villagers joined, quietly, helping with small distractions. The patrol became confused and frustrated. They could not find Leary. After hours, they gave up and left. The village cheered quietly. They had protected the princess and themselves. Leary stepped out from her hiding place. She smiled at Ruvo. Thank you, she said softly. Ruvo smiled back. We are stronger together. He said. The stars shone bright above the village. A small home of wood and hope stood firm against the darkness. The village was quiet in the early morning light. The air was cold but calm. Ruvo stood outside his home and looked toward the shelter he had built for Leary. The small wooden house was peaceful under the soft glow of dawn. Leary was inside, helping. With breakfast, the day seemed ordinary, but danger was closer than anyone expected. Suddenly, a loud noise broke the silence. Ruvo turned and saw smoke rising from the far fields. Flames burned bright against the sky. The Thorn Patrol had returned. This time, they brought fire and anger. Ruvo ran toward the village center, shouting, "The Thorn are attacking. Protect yourselves and your homes." People scrambled to put out the fire, but the flames spread quickly. The Thorn soldiers marched through the village, demanding Leary's surrender. They wanted the princess, and they would take her by force. Leary stepped forward. Her eyes were strong and steady. "I will go with you," she said calmly. "Stop hurting the people." Ruvo saw the pain in her eyes. He did not want her to face the Thorn alone. He shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "You will not go alone." The villagers looked at Ruvo and Leary. They were afraid, but they also felt hope. Ruvo spoke with quiet power. "We are not weak. We can protect her and ourselves." Together, Ruvo and the villagers prepared to defend the village. They used traps, tools, and their knowledge of the land. Ruvo taught them how to use simple weapons and how to work as one. When the Thorn soldiers returned, they found more than an easy target. The villagers stood strong. They fought back with courage and cleverness. Leary helped, too. She used the slingshot Ruvo had given her. She moved quickly and quietly, surprising the attackers. The battle was hard, but the villagers did not give up. Slowly, the Thorn began to retreat. The fire burned low, and the village was saved. After the fight, Ruvo helped put out the last flames. The village was tired and hurt, but still standing. Leary sat beside him, her face tired but proud. "I did not want this," she said softly, "but I will not run." Ruvo nodded. "You are brave, and we are with you." The villagers came together to rebuild what the fire had taken. They worked side by side, showing strength and unity. Leary looked around at the people. "You have given me hope," she said. "A chance to believe in peace." Ruvo smiled. "We build our future together, no matter where we come from." The stars shone above as the village grew stronger. A small shelter stood firm, not just as a house, but as a symbol of trust and courage. Ruvo knew the road ahead would be hard, but he believed in the power of people. Together, they could face any darkness. The village was calm again after the fire and the fight. The people were busy rebuilding their homes and fields. Ruvo and Leary worked side by side with everyone. The shelter behind Ruvo's house stood strong, a sign of hope in the cold land. One morning, a small device beeped softly in Leary's hand. It was an old communicator, a gift from the stranger who had warned Ruvo about the Thorn Patrol. The screen showed a flickering image of a man with kind eyes. "Leary," the man said, "I am Ivan, your father's guard. I thought you were lost forever. There is a ship hidden in the mountains. It is damaged but can be fixed. It holds secrets of your people. You must see it." Leary's heart beat faster. She looked at Ruvo. "We must go," she said. Ruvo nodded. "Then we go." They packed small bags with food and tools. The path to the mountains was rough and cold. They walked through snow and rocks. The air was thin and fresh. Leary told stories of the Varnari realm as they traveled. Ruvo shared his own story about his sister who had passed away. They grew closer with each step. After today's, they reached a hidden valley. There, half buried in dust and ice, was the broken ship. It was large and strange, with smooth curves and shining metal. The Varnari design was beautiful and unlike anything Ruvo had seen. Leary's eyes filled with tears. "This was my home," she said softly. Ruvo helped her climb inside. The ship was cold and silent. Many parts were broken, but the core still glowed faintly. Ruvo examined the controls and machinery using his tools. He worked carefully to restore power. Days passed as Ruvo repaired the ship. Lyri watched, learning. From him, she found old maps and books inside the ship. The maps showed stars and planets far away. They held the last secrets of the Varnari realm. One night, under the stars, Lyri spoke. "This ship is hope. It can take us to my people." Ruvo smiled. "And you will not be alone." The bond between them grew strong. They were not just builder and princess now. They were friends and partners. The ship's engines hummed softly. It was ready for flight, but they needed more time to repair all systems. Lyri looked at Ruvo. "Thank you for everything." Ruvo shook his head. "No, thank you for trusting me." Together, they prepared for the journey ahead. The stars above seemed brighter than ever. A new path opened before them, full of danger and promise. The repaired ship stood quietly in the hidden valley. Its silver surface gleamed under the twin moons. Inside, Lyri and Ruvo prepared for their journey to find the scattered Varnari allies. The ship was small but strong, built for speed and travel. Between stars, Lyri sat in the captain's chair, her fingers resting on the controls. She felt a mixture of hope and fear. This was the moment she had waited for. The chance to reconnect with her people and build a future. Ruvo worked beside her, checking the systems one last time. He was a man of earth and wood, but now he stood, ready to face the stars. "Are you ready?" he asked. Lyri smiled. "I am." They sent a message to the Varnari allies, using a secret code from the old maps. Hours passed before a reply came. It was from a small group holding out on a distant moon. They welcomed Lyri and asked for help to rebuild. Lyri turned to Ruvo. "They need us." Ruvo nodded. "Then we must go." The ship lifted from the ground with a soft hum. The stars stretched out before them, endless and bright, as they traveled. Lyri shared her dreams of peace and unity. Ruvo spoke of the shelter he had built and the trust between people. They talked late into the night, watching the stars from the ship's windows. Lyri reached out and took Ruvo's hand. "Will you come with me?" she asked. Ruvo hesitated. He had never left the moon before. The stars were beautiful, but unknown. Yet, he knew he could not turn away from her. "Yes," he said quietly. The ship's course was set for the distant moon. Along the way, they faced dangers. A meteor storm tested the ship's shields. They navigated through strange space clouds that played tricks on their sensors. Through it all, they grew closer. Lyri taught Ruvo her language. Ruvo showed Lyri how to fix machines. They became a team. When the ship landed on the distant moon, they were welcomed by the Varnari allies. The small group was strong but tired. They needed help to build homes and farms. Lyri stepped forward, not as a princess, but as a leader. She invited Ruvo to stay and help. The Varnari looked at him with surprise. A human, so simple and strong, who built shelters and saved lives. Ruvo felt unsure, but accepted. Together, they began to build. Shelters rose from the cold ground. Gardens grew. Schools opened for children. One evening, as they watched the twin suns set, Lyri said, "You gave me a home when I had none. Now, let me give you a home among the stars." Ruvo smiled, looking at the new life they were building. "We build together," he said. The future was uncertain, but hope burned bright. A home of wood and stars had become a home among the stars. The new settlement on the distant moon was alive with energy. Wooden shelters stood side by side, their walls strong against the cold winds. Gardens flourished where once was only dust. Children laughed and played, their voices carrying through the clear air. Lyri stood at the center of the village, watching the busy scene. She was no longer just a princess hiding from enemies. She was a leader who had brought hope to her people. Beside her stood Ruvo, the man who had built a shelter for a stranger and helped build a new home among the stars. The Varnari Council had been formed, made up of people from many places. Lyri did not sit on a throne. Instead, she stood with the others, listening and learning. Ruvo was named her advisor, a sign that humans and Varnari could work together as equals. At first, Some of the Varnari doubted Ruvo. He was from a simple world and knew little of their ancient ways. But his ideas were strong. He taught them how to build quickly with new materials. He shared ways to grow food in the cold soil. He showed kindness and patience. Slowly, respect grew. One day, as the twin suns rose over the horizon, Ruvo and Lyri walked through the village. They saw families planting seeds, children learning songs, and friends helping each other. Lyri smiled. "This is what I dreamed of, a place where all can live in peace." Ruvo nodded. "And it is because we build it together." They stopped by the shelter Ruvo had built first. Now a small museum for visitors. Inside, pictures and tools told the story of a man who gave hope to a princess. Lyri looked at Ruvo. "You made a home for me when I had none. Now, I want to give you many homes." Ruvo laughed softly. "I never dreamed I would travel among the stars. But here, with you, I am at home." Their bond was stronger than ever. Together, they dreamed of a future where humans and Varnari worked as one family. They planned to reach out to other scattered Varnari groups and even to humans living on other worlds. The stars were no longer distant points of light. They were places to visit, places to build, places to call home. One evening, as the moons rose, Lyri and Ruvo sat outside, watching the sky. The cool wind whispered through the trees. Lyri said, "We faced fear and danger. We lost much, but we found each other." Ruvo smiled, "And in that, we found strength." They looked up at the stars together. A small shelter had started it all. Now, their home was among the stars, built with hope, courage, and friendship. The future was bright.